and we made this new record, and I just want everybody to hear it. It's called the Apocalypse Blues Revival. And I'm the Apocalypse. I was named the Apocalypse. I tattooed it on my hand in 2001. And at the time, I was a raging alcoholic in the best of ways. And
thank you, Hunter S. Thompson. And that's all.
And I did lots of drugs. And I was in this punk band, Amen. And we were touring the world with Slipknot. And even Slipknot, who really know how to party like Pantera knew how to party, they did. They were the fucking real. And they destroyed shit. But when they'd see me coming, when Joey Jordison would see me coming with that look in my eye, he'd be like, all right, everybody, watch out. Here comes the apocalypse, right? And so it stuck.
All right, so I'm just going to tell you guys that sometimes when you like take a lot of hallucinogenic drugs, you just start like whole conversations and you don't realize that there's any like premise or like order or time to which you're supposed to like introduce people or talk about things.
Time is a construct, and we definitely prove that.
So here on 2020, which is the name of our show, which I still haven't introduced yet, I'm Benny Goodman, as our guest Shannon Larkin asked me sometime, I don't know if his last episode.
Halfway through the episode?
Yeah, halfway through
What's your name?
What's your name again? Boston, because I'm wearing a Boston guitar shirt because, you know, I like that store. So, you know, whatever. But we're here with Shannon Larkin, the drummer from Godsmack, but also kind of like a transcendental, philosophical, Theodore Roosevelt-esque
so
gentleman.
Philosophical that we streamlined right into episode 2, and we didn't even introduce him because it just kept going. So Shannon 2020, the three of us, into not starting
with
our
some
own
knowledge
episode.
bombs, though.
With
and
so
turtles.
many knowledge bombs. Yeah, knowledge bombs and turtles. And
33,000 gallons of water, bro.
lots of nuggets in this one.
Some vanilla ice mixed in there somewhere, too.
Oh, dude, with zip lines, it's fucking bananas. And a helicopter, I'm pretty sure.
It's just in all directions. There's no way to summarize this episode. You just have to
Or
listen.
Shannon's line of thought. Like, he's literally the only person that derails conversations as much as I do, which is why I think we're kindred spirits. I love you, Shannon. Like, literally, you're the best.
So here's part 2 with Godsmack drummer Shannon Larkin.
Start coming on, man. I'll just start coming on, being the fourth guy on your show.
Dude, we love it.
Anytime, man.
We really, honestly, dude, we have an open invitation to a bunch of different people. We have Satchel from Steel Panther, Pauly Calafiore from like Big Brother and MTV. Like, they all come on. And
I want to come on with Dave Abruzzo. I've never even met him.
Yeah, we should do it.
Abruzzese, just so you know. It took me 25 years. He's like, dude, my name's Abruzzese. I'm like, oh, okay. So,
I didn't know how to pronounce it properly either. It's hard to
he's in a hidden layer he's over 8,000 miles away from here. I'll give you that hint. So like, and he actually ran away from the world because of all of what was going on, and we kind of got him to come out of his shell on this show. So like, that's why I was asking about it, because I'm sure he's gonna hear about it vicariously and then call me and be like, "Wait, what did you say?" And it's gonna be hilarious.
How do you pronounce it again? Abruzzo?
David Abruzzese. It's Indian.
Abruzzese.
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 Abruzzese. And he will definitely go into the sweat lodge and trip out with you if you'd like. But if you'd like to watch football, feel free. Tell us what time, and Cory will send out another link, and that's perfectly okay with us.
Yeah. I don't know what time the football game's over, but I would say if it's 6:30 now, let me look at what quarter we're in.
It's 8:00. Well, but that's fine.
I'm pretty sure we're on the same time zone.
This episode's hilarious, dude. I even want to start it with him like the way it starts, like with it just slightly before, is hilarious.
All right. This game starts at 8, so how about I'll stay on here.
It's 8:00 right now, bro.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I thought it was, I'm in a different world.
No, that's cool, man. You have the Fillmore behind you. We're
I'm
going to get
pretty
into
sure
that.
we're all on Eastern time. But
and if you want to pay attention to the football game while you're talking to us, like, that's hilarious.
No, I don't. But what I'm going to do is, if I can, like, say a half hour into this next hour,
bounce out.
Because here's what's going to happen. The game can come on at 8. It's going to be on to 11 probably. I don't want to. And then I'll probably be, I don't know, flying on Cambodian mushrooms by the time the end of the game happens.
Well, okay,
I
so let's
got
just continue.
mushrooms, Benny Goodman. I got mushrooms from Cambodia. I got mushrooms from Hawaii. I got mushrooms from Costa Rica. I got
Do you
mushrooms.
eat them or do you put them in like tea? How do you ingest the mushrooms?
Oh, you just eat them and you just got to have a toothpick handy and maybe, if you're a beer guy,
Have you ever taken them in tea?
Can we get back into the show? This is good.
I really have. And I was in my early 30s and I lived in Santa Barbara, California. And my girlfriend at the time had a good friend from Lodi. And I went up to this Dead party. And, I'm a dude that I just never really got the Grateful Dead, and it's not like I hate them or I just...
Well, because you never went down to Shakedown Street and got the right amount of mushrooms to fucking trip to understand what Terrapin Station's about.
I fucking tripped balls on 4 hits of acid and tried to listen to the Dead. And
Oh my God.
I went to a Dead party, like I said, in my early 30s, and we drank. There was girls dressed up like Raggedy Ann walking around with Trip Tea.
Nitrous.
Trip Tea. And we were just...
Oh, yeah.
Not even Raggedy Ann. They were dressed like Alice in Wonderland, right? And it was
Yeah.
this Dead party. And I mean, these people, man, they had like a whole wall of like just cassette Dead shows that they taped over the last 20 years. And they knew everyone. Oh man, when they played Truckin' at the fucking whatever, it was crazy. The dedication of these Deadheads. It's amazing. Anyway, trip balls there and that fucking whole thing. Still didn't get the music and where if I take a hit of acid and listen to, say, Dark Side of the Moon, it's obvious. I mean, that's...
It makes so much sense. It's funny you say that because I went and saw Fish in 1997, all right? My friends had like really shitty seats and I had good seats because my friend actually knew Adam Gordon or whatever. Mike Gordon. And I was sitting down and during the intermission we were supposed to take him. I didn't know anything about it. Well, they had taken it before. So my friend's trying to eat my fucking jacket. They're all tripping. I'm not tripping. So I'm like 15 watching them play like, a 25-minute version of Tweezer. I'm like, this is the most boring thing ever. John Fishman's jumping up on his fucking drum kit with a vacuum cleaner. I'm like, I don't get it. Because I didn't take the drugs. But I'll tell you, this year I did discover what music you need to listen to. And if you haven't, and I'm sure you have, this is not condescending, but classical music. Like, in particular, Vladimir Horowitz radio, because he was progressive piano, I realize is the most intense, purest, craziest. Like if you want to melt your face with shred piano symphonic music that you go, I would never have written this, nor would I have thought of this, nor would I have thought of this meter change. There you go, my friend. Classical.
Maybe that's how we're going to get people reinterested in classical music.
There
Just
you go.
slip a little
Trippin'.
mushrooms. Yeah, just get them all completely tripping. And then classical music will be
Chopin's
great
fucking
again.
amazing.
Tchaikovsky, man, wow. I swear. But that's the thing about tripping. In my 20s, it was all about partying, and we would trip and go to Lollapalooza or whatever and be in concerts, man, and go out tripping.
See Pearl Jam with David Abruzzese.
I can't imagine it now going out in public in that state. But when you're young, that's what you do. And so, but now it's actually a tool for me in a spiritual thing and music. And that's all I think about when I'm tripping. It's not a party anymore. And it's always I have many epiphanies even, and right?
I completely agree with it because there's a lot of people who take it to, obviously party. But for me, I feel like there's a netherworld, and everything that happens, like you purge emotions, and it's one of those things. Like sometimes it's not even good emotions. You think about something you did wrong when you were 7, but all of a sudden it comes back full tilt, and you're like, oh, but I'm supposed to take this job, or I should call this person, and a lot of the things that come together for you, you're like, okay. 2 hours of that, I was having a bad time, but the reason I did that was to come to this conclusion. And that's kind of how I feel when I've taken, it's a responsibility because emotionally, you don't know if you're going to be in for like enjoying yourself, or maybe you need to get something out that turns into a Godsmack song because Sully's upset.
Well, and the next day you remember it. And the epiphany was real. And you're like, wow. That really happened and it really works. And it really, it can make your life better, you know. If
There's a glow about it too. If you like, a lot of people that are depressed, like I suffer from anxiety and depression. I feel like if I trip just like a small amount and don't blow my brains out, I kind of have a glow for the next few days, in the sense that like I feel accomplished mentally, because it takes a lot out of you. You know, but if there's a lot of contemplation going on in your life, it's definitely a double-edged sword, where you could be thinking about something very extensively. But I will tell you that for me, it's been a very positive thing as far as coming to conclusions. Like, you know, maybe I should have Siobhán and Cory on this show with me, because people might be annoyed if it was just me. You know,
it appears to be just you at the moment.
Well, it's us in a trip. We're both hallucinating at the same time. Me and Shannon both have like the craziness going around us.
It's very true.
No, but Shannon, I wanted to ask you, you're obviously like a super cool guy, and like very spiritual and like talented and, you know, enlightened in a lot of ways. And I want to hear, like, I'm curious about the pre-Godsmack era and getting into music and getting into drums. I'm like always interested in people's backgrounds and how they get exposed to music and how they eventually end up in it as a career. So could you maybe tell us some stories about, you know, getting into it, how you got interested?
Yeah, I've always liked music, and my mom and dad they didn't play instruments, but they were very music loving family. And I remember my dad would be like, you know, this is early mid 70s. And he'd be like, we're not watching the boob tube after dinner. We're going downstairs, listen to music. And they'd go downstairs, and my mom and dad would dance, and me and my sister would laugh and listen to music with my parents. And they turned us on to all kind of an eclectic mix of music. My dad liked the 50s and 60s doo-wop stuff and Elvis Presley, but he also was the country person that liked the old school country, like Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, that kind of stuff. So, and then my mom was like the rock and roll chick that turned me on to Creedence Clearwater Revival and Sly and the Family Stone and the Zeppelin and oh my God, Beatles. My mom and Stones, you know. And so we would go down and listen to records, and it wasn't until I started like hearing songs that I liked on the radio that like call out to me, and my sister had a record player, you know, and so I think it was 7 or 8 when I asked for a record player, and I started begging my parents for these K-Tel records they used to sell on TV. I'm showing my age here, but so there was a company called K-Tel, and you'd see, you know, K-Tel presents the top 10 hits of the nation or whatever, and it'd be like The Funky Worm by the Ohio Players, and they would have Calling Dr. Love by Kiss, and I'd be like, oh, I want that record or whatever. And one day my sister came in my room and said to me, you know, your music is crap. And listen to this record, and she gave me Rush Hemispheres, right? And
you were listening to Love Roller Coaster by the Ohio Players, and then all of a sudden you have the professor walk into your room.
That's right. And I put that record on, and I just remember just my world expanding, and the drums sang, like I loved the drums out of it. Listen to that drummer, but I didn't say I want to be that drummer. And so I wore that record out. I still, by the way, have that record to this day. I'm 53.
Wow.
Yeah, I swear it was probably 1978 when that came out or something. But and it has my sister's name written on it, because back then, you know, you take the record to the party and you didn't want your record to get stolen. So
wow.
And it's on red vinyl. It just keeps getting better. Right?
I mean, I always liked that song La Via Strangiato. I don't know how you fucking pronounce it, but I remember going, why is this bass player sing? Because that was one of the first things when I listened to prog music, someone put on Rush, and I was like, oh, this is the song for me. I'm like, but there's no singing.
Yeah.
But that song was the song that turned me on to Rush. That fucking album blew my goddamn mind.
The trees.
Now I respect Geddy Lee, by the way. I'm sorry.
Lyrically, man, the trees, you know what I mean? It was just, they were geniuses. Anyway, I wore that record out. I don't know how long it took, but I finally went back. Went back to my sister and said, I said, that was right. You were right. My music is shit, and I don't want any more K-Tel records. I love rock. What's next? And she gives me Zeppelin 2.
Wow.
And when I got Zeppelin 2, not only did my world expand, but I wanted to drum. I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And so that's when, you know, Led Zeppelin 2 made me ask and I my birthday was coming up, and I asked for a drum kit for my birthday on my 8th birthday. And, basically after that, I met this guy named Terry Carter that got a guitar on that Christmas, and I'd just gotten some cymbals and whatever, and we started a little band, and it became Wrathchild. And 12 years later, we signed to Atlantic Records. But I was with Terry Carter for all my formative years. Started playing nightclubs when I was 13.
Wow.
And have never ever done anything else except play drums for a living. I mean, never.
What was it about Bonham that flipped that switch over Pert? Like, was it the backbeat and that just groove, or?
It was probably the fact that at the time I enjoyed Led Zeppelin as a band more than Rush.
Mm-hmm.
They were more mystical to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, 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 really fell in love with Led Zeppelin. And that second record, that Zeppelin 2 was the one. And so that's blues. And now here it is, 50 or 40 some years later. And I have a blues band, a heavy rock blues band. And it's from that early influence of Zeppelin, I think. And just John Bonham's right foot, it just changed my life, And I think also it could have been I had a very small little drum kit. And I couldn't play Rush on that drum kit.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that though, because to listening to you and listening, David Abraziz, one of the first times he told us this story, and I think you'll appreciate this. Terry Bozzio goes up before him and talks about all this technical mumbo jumbo.
This is like a drum clinic, right? This is
he's doing a drum clinic. He's like never spoke to anybody. He was like bongs and Bonham. And he said it's the first time he ever got a standing O was because he just goes up there, he's high as a kite.
You ruined his catchphrase, man. Bong hits and Bonham. He's got more rhythm to it because he's a drummer.
Yeah, he's a drummer, and he's got. But it's so interesting because it's like there's so many people that have that same like epiphany. But he also called me one day and says, "I only use a 23-inch kick drum because that's what Neil told me to. That's the perfect balance between the 24, the 22 is the 23." So it's interesting to hear you both say that because that there's so many drummers from a certain period, and it's like those guys were like so important. And then for me was Bill Ward, and in 97 or something, you played a one-off show with fucking Sabbath. How the fuck does that happen?
I'll tell you exactly how it happened. I knew Robert Trujillo from Suicidal Tendencies through Whitfield Crane of my old band, Ugly Kid Joe. Friends. And so next thing I know, Trujillo's coming out seeing my rockabilly band that I had in LA called Back Alligators, that we would just do rockabilly shows. And I've always had side projects, by the way. I don't sleep much. I love music too much to sleep, right? And
that's amazing.
And so I always, this blues band was a funk band before that Tony and I was doing with the new singer. It's just, my life is all about music, and I try not to be pigeonholed into one genre, even if I am loyal and I love Godsmack, and I will stay in Godsmack as long as Sully Erna will have me in his band. I'm proud and lucky to be here. But I always like to play different styles of music too, and feel that everybody should do it, because as a musician, it makes you grow. If you, like I say, try and play some jazz drums if you're a drummer. Or even
tell them about Rodolfo, Siobhán.
Oh yeah, well I have a good friend he's the drummer for Julio Iglesias, like Latin pop music, but he's an amazing jazz drummer. And when I go see him play jazz gigs at small clubs, it's insane.
But he started on Matt Cameron, and he said basically if you want to be the ultimate musician, play jazz. He goes, that's the most impressive thing. And he writes Frank Zappa level, Vinnie Colaiuta's oh man, I better take fucking notes kind of shit.
Yeah, but it's all about the versatility.
Exactly. Going a little deeper, this is the fifth time in the last several weeks that we've had a podcast that has come on where we talk about how play outside of your comfort zone, play something that you're not familiar with, because it's going to make you a better player. It's crazy that these themes that keep popping up with players such as yourself, who are music incarnate. Essentially, you are music. Your entire life is that, and you have the same great advice that we hear from people like Steve Stevens, who said the same exact thing on the episode with us as well.
What, there was a lot of cocaine in the 80s?
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
that
Don't
too.
talk about it.
That's just another one of the parallels that we're finding. The guys at the record label had the best coke.
He's according to Drew. We talked to Drew Ann Rosenberg, who was telling us that Christopher Walken, back to the Christopher Walken thing, was too fucked up to walk in the end of Kings of New York, to walk down the center of the street. So she's actually carrying him in that scene because he was fucked up. And I was like, that's fucking great. And she's like, no one said anything about it. That's what an assistant director does, by the way. If you did not know that, is to carry Christopher Walken down the streets of New York City so that people don't realize that he can't walk for himself.
Make sure you check out that episode. But Shannon, getting back to you, it's really cool to hear that you have this genuine appreciation for music. So I want to know, like, when you're playing a show with Godsmack, and you're walking onto the stage there in these giant venues, and then you're going and you're playing with your side projects where maybe it's a smaller venue, maybe more intimate. How's your feeling differ towards those two types of shows and performances?
Between the smack and the blues thing?
Yeah.
Well, my God, Godsmack, man, we're playing to way more people, and there's usually, we have a fan base, and there's people that know all our songs where,
Yeah, Godsmack's huge.
Yes.
You mean like 50 million people know your song, Shannon?
But for you, when you're approaching those shows, how is it for you?
I'm a drummer, so I go up there and play the drums, man. It's no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's funny because, when I said earlier about nerves and all that, that's for, 5 minutes before any show, whether I'm playing the blues or if I'm playing a fucking stadium in front of 50,000 people, I'm going to be nervous before I go on. And it's funny, just the other day, a couple months ago, actually, Sully had come and Tony, Robbie and I had written some new songs for Smack, and so we were about to just play them for Sully, and I got nervous. It's just, but then once the first hit happens, and so there's really, there's really no way how I can describe that feeling, walking to the stage with Godsmack, because I become invincible, and I'm just way bigger than I really am. I'm 105 pounds soaking wet, but when I'm walking to the stage, I'm fucking Lou Ferrigno or something, you know what I mean? And so, it's, the fear is not fear. It's apprehension almost that, and anytime I'm ever scared walking on stage, it's always thinking that I'm hoping that nothing technically goes wrong. You know what I mean? My fear is never about myself or my performance or my playing, because I've always been straight guy on stage after the shows when I party, but all day, I don't even I smoke pot or whatever. I love to smoke pot. I've done it all my life. And so, but I don't do it in the daytime. So, because even if I got high on tour, say at 11 in the morning or something, I'm still going to be burnt and tired at 9 o'clock for the show that night. It's just the way I am. Where Rambola, man.
Well, that's why you gotta do cocaine like the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta weed and speed it, bro. Don't you know the circle of life? You're about to pass out from doing the bong rip, and then you do the line and the fish scale shit, and you're fine. And you go back, you're 1,000 miles per hour.
Yeah.
That sounds exhausting.
Used to be doable.
Look at that lava lamp.
I love the lava lamp.
People can't even see it, but the lava lamp is fucking.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Okay, everyone has to watch the video for this. You can't just listen
Is
to the
that
audio.
a three-eyed donkey?
It's a
horns.
looks like I don't know.
It's like a mogwai.
It's not a real animal. What kind is it? A rabbit? It's
like
a unicorn rabbit with two horns.
I thought Velvel was cool, but apparently I got out Velvelled.
I'm missing an avatar.
rabbit.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
I got another board.
I love Shannon Larkin, by the way. I just want everybody to know.
This one's
In
pretty.
real
Oh
time.
my gosh, where are all these characters coming from?
Do
This
people
guy's
make
cool.
these for you on tour?
I got this one. Look, it has bat wings.
That's hilarious.
The bat.
Does some chick throw that with her number up on stage?
It's like cute and scary at the same time.
Cool. No, I have like this room, has all the floors are covered. It's covered with like, pillows and fuzzy things, soft. Fuzzy things.
Define fuzzy things. Are we talking rugs, carpets?
Well, one fuzzy thing is this yoga ball, and it's like, I don't know, a big ball that sits on a stand, and it's fuzzy though, and then you can sit on it in yoga pose and
okay.
And it, at first, it's a cool thing, the yoga ball, because you have to center yourself, or else you lose your balance and fall on your ass. So makes you center yourself, unless you're gonna break your hip or something.
I'm going to need some interior decoration advice for my studio, because I don't have half that vibe.
So
when
vibey.
I went to physical therapy, I used one of those yoga balls for my hips. I actually, you find out after 30, apparently, that there's a good hip and a bad hip. And my left hip is my bad hip. So, like, I actually used it to stretch over a ball. So I can understand. So maybe going to your house would be therapeutic on multiple levels, whether it's going to the netherworld and tripping and talking at the Fillmore, or, just making sure that I'm aligned so I don't pull Eddie Van Halen doing that fucking split mid guitar solo.
You know what else I got? Speaking of, physical health or whatever, and yoga, I got the mirror.
Oh, I was wondering about that. I very much want one.
It's super cool, man. And the thing is, it's a big, beautiful mirror too that sits in your room, like it leans against the wall, and so it looks just like a mirror. But then you turn it on, and it hooks right to your phone, your iPhone, and comes up with.
It's like the holodeck.
Well, and it's like it stands about 5 feet tall, so the person in it is like, I don't know, 4 feet tall. But it's like
there's a person in the mirror.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope.
Yeah.
It's like a hologram type thing in the mirror, right? It's like a virtual.
It really is virtual looking. It looks like a hologram kind of, and so it's like 3D looking. It looks like they're in the mirror. It's really cool. But you can also, it has a camera and a microphone, and you can go on there and do these programs live where Shannon has joined the room or whatever, and there's all these people actually live doing it with a live guy. Okay, come on, Shannon.
That sounds
Hit
terrifying.
harder, whatever he's fucking saying, to me yelling at. But anyway, so I choose not to do that stuff. And so they have the pre-recorded ones that are like, so there's 15 minutes. So I've been doing like the 15-minute Tai Chi one, and then the yoga one, and then there's a kickboxing and a boxing one. So I've been doing those 4 to make like an hour workout each day. And it's cool because the yoga stretches you out, and then the Tai Chi is kind of an extension of the yoga. And then you start the boxing thing, which warms you up. And then by the time you get to the kickboxing part, you're limber. And so it's a pretty good workout.
This sounds like the movie Strange Days by James Cameron. Do you remember that, where they used to like record people's memories and you could like watch them back in virtual reality, and they sold them on the black market? This wasn't one of his big movies like Terminator or Avatar. This is one of his dark 80s movies with terrible like synth for soundtrack shit after The Abyss. Yeah, but that's what it sounds like, man, is that you just bought this memory to go do Tai Chi and all this other stuff, and you're like living in this fucking world. And if you are tripping nuts, it doesn't matter, because there's no repercussions, because everything in your room, it's like a padded room over there, bro. It's all fuzzy, it's all fine, like you're good.
I haven't looked at the mirror tripping. That would be intense.
Oh, that would be horrifying.
I feel like Joe Rogan and you need to figure this one out.
The thing is, though, when you turn the mirror on, it's not a mirror. It's like a big screen TV rectangle, and so, fucking, you don't see yourself in it.
Oh, that's good.
You know what I mean?
What if Mike
That's so
Portnoy
creepy.
showed up and started playing The Mirror by Dream Theater and just slightly odd? Would that fuck with you? Like, so like you turned it on, you're standing in front of it, but then Mike's there like with his big kit, like mirroring your big. That'd be weird, right?
My God, we played with Dream Theater last year in 2019. And
So Mangini.
we're at one of those festivals in Europe, and Dream Theater was headlining the stage. They're huge over there. This was in I think it was in France, right? Or maybe. Anyway, they were huge, and this was just 2019, and they were. Anyway, so I found myself having lunch with Mike, the drummer.
Wow.
And he was so fucking cool. I'd never met him before, and I hadn't seen him play. You know, I know Portnoy. Mike Portnoy is a buddy. You know, I consider him a buddy. He's the coolest fucking guy. And a monster drummer, you know, Adrenaline Mob, his band.
There's Mike Portnoy, and then Mangini's like a Bozio or a Caliuta or a fucking Simon Phillips, where he's from a different planet. Like, he's like quirky, crazy. He's a Bostonian crazy guy.
Well, Mangini, that's what I meant, but his name is...
No, I'm saying Portnoy is like of the realm of the living. He's like one of the greatest drummers on the planet. But like Mike Mangini could go into any band. He's like a Virgil Donati, where he literally has been practicing 9 hours a day since 1972.
And my God, he's a funny, nice dude. I met him at catering, and we had lunch together at catering, and so I go to see him play, and I was fortunate enough to be able to stand on the side of the stage. So I'm like, 15 feet away from this dude, being able, like, behind him, I could see everything he's doing. So it was like a clinic I got to see with Mangini, but he had done this thing. I don't know if you've seen him. I don't know if this is how he's always played, but he put his cymbals 5 feet above him in the air, like every.
Oh yeah.
And I mean,
it's like Tommy Aldridge level, like where you're like literally
playing it from underneath or something.
Yes, but more beyond Tommy Aldridge. But he told me, Mangini told me the story. He did it on purpose because everybody would always bust his ass because take the piss out of him because his cymbals were too high. Jesus, dude, your cymbals are too high, right? So he's like, I was just fucking with everybody, so I put him up another foot. But all of his cymbals, and like literally, he's like, douche. It was fucking the craziest thing. But I was like, oh, not only is he playing this immaculate parts and crazy time signatures and lightning fast fills, and he's doing they did all the old shit too, So he's playing Portnoy shit but with his cymbals 10 feet in the air. It was the most amazing thing.
The sound engineer in me thinks that's amazing. No bleed in the tom mics. It's going to be awesome.
Well, he's like the David Blaine of drumming, because he's like, it's not about how fast can you play. It's about how good are your muscles that you've isolated so that you can play with his technique as fast as you physically can. He's crazy. Yeah. He's literally crazy, and I love it.
Like up between the two front crashes that were, I swear to God, the dude, full extension to hit these cymbals. That's how he's playing all night. And then
when you're used to hitting octatoms back here, you know what I mean? And your chimes are over here. I imagine that hitting the seventh cymbal over here is fine.
Dude, he put 4 octabombs in a row. Now these are 6-inch targets, okay? They get their length is what gives them the different tone. So, but the targets are only 6 inches. Yeah. And they were 10 feet up too, in between his first 2 crashes, before facing straight out of the crowd, 4 octabombs. And he would go, and it was insane. I never saw.
Does he have extension kick drums? Because when I saw Terry Bozzio for the first time, he was playing polyrhythm with his feet sideways, and then he started soloing with his radial cymbals, and I was like, okay, you have more kick drums than there are feet.
It was, man, these cats, both those guys are crazy. Terry Bozzio, by the way, was one of my favorite and biggest influences back in the day. I really loved that band Missing Persons.
Oh yeah, dude.
And that's
unbelievable.
But as a musician, he did this thing where he would do the up down, I now call it, because he filled with his top boom. So like when it goes mental hopscotch, why must you treat me this way? And then the end mental hopscotch, and they go ooh da ooh da. So right?
Yeah.
But when he did it was like, I was like, that dude.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, when I just so Cory and Siobhán knows, when we just talked to Steve Stevens, I told him that Situation Dangerous from Black Light Syndrome was actually my first introduction to him as a guitar player, was him playing with Terry Bozzio and Tony Levin. And that, first off, if you haven't heard Black Light Syndrome,
what a band.
Yeah, dude. I mean, unfucking believable. But that was my first entrance to Steve Stevens. He's like, I'm not normally a prog guy, but I'm like, I don't know who this Billy Idol fucker is. I'm like, 15. But I'm like, man, he's keeping up with Terry. It was unbelievable. And I saw a clinic with him playing, and I was like, he's playing Bach arias on the goddamn cymbals. Like that dude. And that was the first time I had ever seen someone said, this guy's on a different level. Like maybe a band can't contain him. Maybe being ex Frank Zappa means that you're just like on spectrum. Well,
yeah. And, there's a great new documentary out about Frank Zappa that I just saw, but which is, I think is on Netflix. Look for that.
Paul Lorenzo, who's coming on this Wednesday, our drummer, and I actually have a date to watch the new Frank Zappa documentary. And Paul, have you ever talked to Paul, your manager, about him going on a date with Moon Unit?
No, I never did.
Okay, you need to ask him about Frank Zappa, because there's a whole story about how when he was dating the girl from the Beverly Hillbillies, and he tells me this whole story about how he goes to Frank's house.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, dude, that's how Dweezil played on Extreme. You gotta ask Paul. Your own manager has some of the coolest stories ever, dude.
I'll ask him. I mean, I trip out on Paul. He tells me stories about hanging out at Joe Perry's house recently and shit. Hanging out. But anyway, yeah, it's amazing. Zappa. So Bosio, I think it's Bosio. I don't know, something.
I thought it was Bosio, but then I feel like Steve Stevens said Bosio, and I said Bosio and corrected myself to Bosio. I guess Terry Bosio or Bosio can get mad at us and then come talk to us and correct us like David Abruzes.
Yeah. He's like, a bruiser. What? I'm going to kick that guy's ass.
Yeah, I literally was like, I have no idea how to say your name, man. I'm sorry.
So anyway, Terry, after I'd heard him in Missing Persons, it was probably, God, I don't know, that was 85 or something. So 10 years later, I discover Frank Zappa in my life, right? And I get, I just become a huge Zappa fan late in the game. Obviously,
it's never too late, man.
His record came out, I was just born, whatever, the first one. So 67, I think. So anyway, I got on Zappa when it was Joe's Garage era. So whatever age I was then. But my point is...
Which was my first Zappa record, by the way. Unbelievable record.
But when I first was turned on to Zappa, it involved acid and the movie Baby Snakes. Have you seen that?
I have not.
It's Frank Zappa, Baby Snakes. And it's essentially a whole Zappa concert. He has Fazio on drums. He has... Oh my God, I think young Steve Vai on guitar. It's this crazy, insane Zappa band playing. Oh my God, he orchestrates the concert. It's the most amazing thing. But it's also a movie like that he made. God, it has claymation. It's called claymation.
Oh,
but when you're that's just crazy when you're not tripping. I mean, you throw acid in the mix.
Well, that's the fine part, is that Frank Zappa never did any drugs, and he was just like that anyway.
Isn't that
just
bizarre?
an enlightened human?
In fact, when I went to New Orleans, they had this rare guitar store, a ledger that was like a whole written out symphony from Frank Zappa, and I actually sent Paul pictures to send to Dweezil. And he was like, "Oh yeah, no, this is definitely my dad's handwriting." But like, he wrote symphonies that they're like, "Oh, the lyrics." One of the symphonies he wrote, the lyrics were too vulgar in the English language, so he had it translated. I don't know if it was to French or something else, but he had like this crazy symphony, I think, about like assholes and dicks and things and all that. And he wrote an actual symphony, and he had it translated to another language so people would take it seriously.
Well, that could be. That's something I haven't heard, but I do know in the new documentary, you'll see near the end, man, he was composing symphony, with no vulgar lyrics, but he was a symphonic music writer, and all through those rock years too, he was trying to compose symphony music, classical music, but in bizarre, even more bizarre than classical already is, but Zappa, and it's the oddest, coolest thing that he never did drugs, because he certainly had doorways to other dimensions that we can only find through use of hallucinogens,
No, I agree with that completely. I sometimes when people ask how I compose and all that, I just say I'm like an Ouija board to something else. Like we play with this guitar player Joey, who's so his tone is so unique that like we played Van Halen, but it sounded like even when he was playing non-Van Halen things on Van Halen, it sounded like Eddie playing Van Halen. And I'm like, dude, some people are able to tap into a thing, and I think it's very esoteric. I think it's a very introspective thing, and part of finding your tone, whether it's as a drummer or a guitar player, is really thinking about and projecting to the world what you want to manifest as a musician. And I think that you're absolutely right. And as far as the Bonham and the Terry Bozzio thing, look, man, I remember not knowing a whole lot about Godsmack and coming and seeing you guys, I think, with Metallica or what have you, and then seeing you and Sully do a drum solo. And that's usually when I'd be like, okay, I'm going to go fucking get some beer now or what have you. And thinking that this was actually the coolest thing that I'd ever fucking saw in my entire life. And the only other band, by the way, that successfully has done this autonomous to you that I've seen at least is Cypress Hill, by the way. If you haven't seen them, they do a very similar thing where they all get on like djembes and talking sticks and fucking crazy shit. But you guys in the middle of your show do this thing where you and Sully both get on the drums, and as a plebeian that barely understands what Tony's doing on the guitar, I'm just like, I don't even get it. But then I was like, okay, they're throwing sticks at each other. They're doing, wow, like they're playing, is this a polyrhythm? Okay, A, B, A, A. And it was the first time I actually thought to myself, this drummer's good. What made you guys decide to do that?
What a setup.
Did I cause him to freeze?
I think you joined him.
I think I actually caused him to, I overloaded his connection.
That was crazy, dude.
Yeah, that's actually how I felt about it.
Like you were like, I got right over here, like from my point of view was, hey, you, that,
oh, you're cutting it.
Oh, no. Even better. You probably didn't miss much.
He was just fanboying over the drum solo.
Yeah, it was the first time I actually said that was really awesome. Like ever, because I usually go get the beer, like during the drum solo. Like you're like, okay, unless you're like Tommy Aldridge again playing with your hands. You guys brought it to a different level.
It's like I said, it's not really a drum solo. You know what I mean? Because the band's still on stage playing music with Sully and I. We just get moments to improvise, which is always nice because the band is a big machine. We call us, we're the big machine, man. Like we don't fuck around and make mistakes live. We're well rehearsed, super rehearsed, over rehearsed. We rehearse because we love to be tight, and it's Sully and I's blue collar rock fucking upbringing, playing the clubs all our lives. You would always have to be the best. Back in the 80s, you got signed because you bring people to clubs, man, from banging the circuit, and then when you got to where you could sell out the Hammerjacks or the fucking L'Amour or whatever, that's when you get the labels out and they'd sign your ass, Where now it's a whole different world where, it's about social presence on how many hits you have.
How good you are on TikTok.
Well,
but that's amazing that you say that.
Honestly, if you're a band and you get 1 million likes or whatever on your site, you got a record deal. That's how you do it now. Where it used to be, you'd have to start selling out the clubs and to get the A&R guy to come out, start a buzz, create it. You know what I mean? There was artist development. It's a whole different world than what I came up in. And at times I feel sorry for like new bands trying to come out in this day and age and make it, because it's not as physically real as when you have to go out in front of a crowd and sell yourself by playing your music, your instrument, your songs, by the chemistry with the 3 guys or 4 guys on stage with you. You presented it like a unit, and it was real to me, So now it's all you can manipulate, now I'm a different dude, right?
You remind me of that guy from the park the other night.
The park?
No, I'm
just ignore. Sorry.
I was just being creepy, as usual.
No, you're right, though. I mean, it is definitely, there's got to be like a foundation that's lost on newer artists that do succeed. So say they do catch that wave just by some magic, stroke of luck, and they get a song that blows up, and then now they got to go tour, but they've played everything in their bedroom up to this point, and I think that probably happens quite a bit.
Yep. And then they got to learn out there, and some continue and are stars, 21 Pilots or whatever. They did it like that, but then took their success. They were super talented, and continued on.
There's also something to be said for the bands that started, building that over years and years and years, fan by fan, and have that solid base, so that when they do get to a level of success, and we talked about this on our episode with Dan Beck.
Pennies in the jar.
Pennies in the jar, exactly.
Yeah.
And he was referring to Charlie Daniels' band, who worked for years and years and years before they really blew up, and they had built so many relationships that when they did finally start building momentum and getting that recognition, everyone wanted to help them out. They had this immense support system that didn't allow them to just skyrocket and fall back down. And that's definitely something that might not be as common nowadays with
no way.
the
And
industry.
now it's one and done, man. I mean, if your first record doesn't sell, then you get dropped.
Yeah.
And if you got a second record, you're lucky. Even in the 90s, it had become that, where 60s and 70s were all about artist development.
Well, here's a hypothetical, because there's been a whole generation that has devalued music. Like, you came from a time, right, when you used to look through the import bin, you bought records, you waited for records, you cherished and coveted records, whereas now everything's disposable. You can get it on Pandora instantly, YouTube, all of that. But now there's been literally a whole generation of people that exist on this planet that have never bought a CD, that have never purchased a record, but now they're playing music. They're playing in bands, and they're realizing that this is fruitless. Like, how the fuck do you possibly make money? So my question is, do you think that at some point soon that we're going to start seeing, like, the generation that maybe grew up with no value to music starting to value music again, because there's just no way to continue on? Because how the fuck are you supposed to play to nobody all the time? Which is what basically has happened. Well, one, because of COVID right now, but two, because you're absolutely right. It's so hard. Like, you could play in a band. Like, I even remember, like, I got signed in 2000 in my first band, and we were selling out clubs. We played Loco Bazooka, which was a festival that, Godsmack shot a video at. And we got signed, and we did it the old school way. We went to a studio that was $1,000 a day, and we spent, 6 figures on a record, and that was the end. Now they're like, if you're lucky, they're like, I hope you know somebody that knows how to master. Here's $50 for Burger King. Deliver us Billie Eilish.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Wrathchild, that's what happened to us. We made, $300,000 videos or whatever for Atlantic Records. We luckily they didn't drop us after the first record. We got to make a second record, but and then after that, well, shit, man, you talk about Julio Iglesias, the lead singer and bass player, Brad Divins of Wrathchild, my first band, is Enrique Iglesias' sound man. So Brad Divin made it. Enrique, by the way, sells out stadiums worldwide. He's like fucking the Latin Elvis, man. Yeah. To the point that, Brad.
We've been told they shut down the Kremlin for his fucking dad. So think about it. Dude, it's crazy. It's craziness.
And so, where I was fortunate enough to have met Sully all those years ago, and lucky enough to have, blessed with whatever talent I have on drums and stuff. So I got Godsmack in this successful band. Well, Brad, after Wrathchild ended, started running sound, ended up landing Cyndi Lauper, believe it or not. First one. And from that, he got Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band when they got back together.
Nice.
And then that led to Slayer. And so anyway, he started making his rounds and making it, stepping up, boom, boom, boom. Then he got Enrique 10 years ago. And he's been Enrique's guy ever since.
Do you think that they sat down and they talked to him and they're like, hey, do you think you could do front of house for Enrique? He's like, dude, I made Kerry King and Jeff Hanneman sound great.
Yeah.
You got the job, bro. You
Yeah.
got it.
he probably, I'd have to ask Brad. I know that's in jest, but he did have that on his resume.
No, that's fucking great. I think that's awesome. And as a sound engineer, in fact, I have a similar story. There's a guy named Paul David Hagar, and he's a great mixing guy. I think he worked with like Van Halen, some bands, but now he's Miley Cyrus's front of house, and the old singer from American Hi-Fi, Stacy, who used to play, I want to say, drums in Letters to Cleo, is now the leader of her band. And if you've seen Miley Cyrus, her band sounds fucking awesome. She sounds awesome. And they always sound awesome because everyone that's playing with them are guys like Paul and Stacy.
Our fucking boy Nuno, man. When you saw him on the Grammys played Step Up.
Oh, Nuno. You don't need to sell me on Nuno Betancourt. I'm from Boston. When
he stepped up and played that solo and he was Rihanna's guy, man. I was blown away, I was like, look at that. Look at Nuno. I mean, that's bigger than Extreme will ever be, and bigger than Godsmack will ever be.
Well, I love the picture of Nuno with
it's Grammys with playing the lead. There he is, and he
played with Paul McCartney as well and Kanye West. So let's not forget about that. Did you see that picture?
Rihanna's something else,
Well, I mean, talent-wise, Rihanna is she's one of the greatest of our time.
And he wasn't just like, he played with Paul McCartney and he played with whatever, but he was Rihanna's guy.
No, yeah, he was.
Like, he helped produce, and I mean, he played with Rihanna.
Well, he also played on Black Cat from Janet Jackson back in the 80s, dude. He's been doing this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Nuno is the man.
Yes, played on that album, that song, right?
Yeah, now he's like the leader of the band, yeah.
Rihanna's guy that put the band, was her band director. Like, he was in Rihanna. Like, I mean, I would like to be in Rihanna.
Yes.
So, Rihanna, if you're listening, we've got a guy.
I don't have to play drums.
Oh, my God. But you're totally right, because when you go see a lot of these bands, like if you went and saw like NSYNC back in the day or whatever, they always have these repressed rock guys that are in their band. These super unbelievable. Like,
yeah, we talked about this on other episodes.
Vanilla Ice, right? I remember meeting Bob Zilla from Damage Plan when I was hanging out with Dimebag, which is the night I met Mike Mangini. May I add? It's a randomness, but he said that he played with Vanilla Ice, and I actually played a show with the Vanilla Ice band when he was doing the metal thing, and they were like across the street, and I was at like the Commercial Street Cafe, which was like in downtown Worcester, Massachusetts, and like that was the first time I met Bob Zilla, and then I met him again with Damage Plan. But didn't you play in the Vanilla Ice rock thing?
Yeah, man, I tracked that record, man.
So what was that like, dude, working with the Robert Van Winkle?
It was fucking amazing, man. We smoked so much pot in Malibu. We were at the studio with Ross Robinson producing, just weeding out, man. And he had, a crew of dudes with him, rapper guys, and it was just an amazing, like I had just had a baby, and I got a picture of Vanilla Ice holding my baby and shit. And he was the coolest guy. I made a record with him over a 6-week period. And so we, became friendly, and I still talk to him every Halloween, and he's just a super cool guy too. And I even, get some like they gave me a little publishing on that record, and I still even get some checks every once in a while. $1,000 or something made from fucking hard to swallow Vanilla Ice, but he's rad. Like, he called me I reached out to him. Halloween is his birthday. So every October 31st, I always reach out to my brother.
Makes sense.
And I'm like, what up, man? And he's like, yeah, you got to come visit, man. He goes, I've really done a lot around the house. I'm talking fucking, I got a helicopter, and I got, what else he said? He did. I got a fucking helicopter now, and zip lines, baby. It's like, I got zip lines. You got to visit. I'm like, you got zip lines? I'm trying to picture. Because, I have a river goes through my backyard, right? That I made this street.
Does it go through underneath your room?
No.
So you can feel the vibrations?
This is a crazy fucking thing. The pandemic, we've all been, suffering at home or whatever. Well, I took the opportunity to just go crazy in my yard. And so I took, I have I have a beautiful koi pond, right? In my right off my back porch is this beautiful koi pond. And across from that is another koi pond, but it's specifically for my turtles. I have a turtle pond and a koi pond. And so, I wanted to put a third pond in the back corner of my yard, where I like to go. I have this like pagoda Japanese fountain light that I like to listen and write words, and meditate out there by the bamboo. I have bamboo trees, whatever. I made like a Japanese garden out of my yard, right? It's beautiful. And so I get the idea to put this 10,000 gallon circular koi pond in the back left corner of my yard. And then my buddy who helped me build my original 9 by 20 foot koi pond. And then I did the turtle pond myself. I mean, I rented a backhoe. I did this myself. But anyway, so where he's like, dude, you should cut a lazy river and connect your old koi pond with your new one, right? And
it's like the Panama Canal.
Oh my gosh.
Fucking Theodore Roosevelt over here, man.
So it's 170 feet away, right? Is where this pond is going to go. And so I traced it out, and we ended up doing it. And obviously it can't be a creek or a real creek or a river, because there needs to be an entrance and exit way for water to make a river or creek, right? So it's really one giant pond, 33,000 gallons. I went from a 9 by 20 foot pond. We took the liner, we pulled it up and made a dam. So I didn't even have to move my fish out, my 11 beautiful koi that I had.
Is this a drummer thing? Like when you go from a 4-piece kit and then you turn into Terry Bozzio? You're like hooking Gibraltar racks to Gibraltar racks. And next thing you know, you have 33,000 gallons of water and koi fish and turtles that are now integrating. And you're trying to find out if your ecosystem can fucking handle both of these animals with the same, type of water
just
or whatever.
Like that.
This is why Florida's great, though. You can do this and it's completely fine.
Yeah, my koi fish procreated, and I got 6 babies in my pond now that I didn't even notice a pregnant fish. It was odd. But so I know my ecosystem, it's balanced and everything is good. But we rented a backhoe. We dammed this thing off. It took us 6 weeks. We went through 3 tropical storms. 3 times I had to hire an extra 6-man crew just to dig this dirt out. It was a fucking...
Oh my goodness.
It really consumed a lot of my time on this pandemic and gave me something to look forward to, and it made me realize, that's what life is. It's about things to look forward to, whether it's, the next song I'm going to write or the next record I'm going to make or the next tour I'm going to do or, the next present I'm going to buy somebody or whatever it is, that's beautiful. It's something to look forward to in life. Might be what's for dinner tonight. It's going to be like getting to this football game at some point. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I'm going to say what Theodore Roosevelt... we'll let you go. But I'll say what Theodore Roosevelt used to say is, bully for you, Shannon, for making that canal. Bully for you. And thank you so much from the bottom of at least my heart. I don't know if there's...
Absolutely.
Of course, this was such a pleasure to talk to you. And thank you for taking time away from the game and for hanging out with us. It was so fun.
And by the way, it's Siobhán.
Siobhán. The spelling is really weird. It's Irish, but
she's in a band called Starset, as well as if you've seen the show The Queen's Gambit, she plays a lot of the violin on that show. So if you get all baked and go listen to the...
So you're in Starset?
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. You guys are great.
Oh, thank you. We were, I think, supposed to do a show with you this year, but I think it got canceled. I don't know, but... Lou
Brutus is kind of,
yeah.
I know Lou, and I follow him online on the Facebook.
Yeah, he's great.
He really loves you guys, and so that's how I heard of you. And I watched a video of the new song.
Oh, that's awesome! That's so cool to hear.
Very cool original band. Bully to you, as Theodore Roosevelt was.
Well, hopefully, Shannon, we can.
If I can just do a shameless plug before I go.
Of course, please, anything. Yeah.
I have a side project. And it's with Tony Rumbola of Godsmack. He plays the guitar, and he has a side to him that you do not hear in Godsmack. That he loves the blues guitarists of Stevie Ray Vaughan and Albert King and Johnny Winter. And anyway, that's his thing that people don't know about him is he's really, 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 really talented. And in Godsmack, he's the man. He makes those rhythms that sound like Godsmack and comes up with whatever, chords. He's Godsmack. But man, when you hear him play the blues, it's insane. And it's heavy, heavy rock blues, by the way. And we write the songs together. My drum tech, it's a Cinderella story. My drum tech of 20 years is the new singer in the band. And we put 2 records out on Provog, which is Kenny Wayne's label. It's this big blues label, actually. They got Walter Trout. They got Robin Ford. They got everybody on Provog. Well, we were much more traditional blues at that point. We were called Apocalypse Blues Review. And we had a singer named Ray, who was a more traditional blues guy. Well, that band, we put 2 records out on Provog, and you know, they didn't sell much. It's blues anyway. It's probably whatever. And so Provog, it was a 2-record deal. They didn't pick us back up, right? And so I was just kind of like, and then I wrote this new batch of material and realized that it was no longer trying to be traditional blues. It was just this crazy, trippy music that was coming out. And that my drum tech, Shane, who's also my best friend, had the perfect voice for it. He's kind of like in between like Bowie and Gilmore, and he's just got this really cool, smooth voice, and he's a great falsetto, whatever. So anyway, so I put him in the new band, and we made this new record, and I just want everybody to hear it. It's called the Apocalypse Blues Revival, and I'm the Apocalypse. I was named the Apocalypse. I tattooed it on my hand in 2001. And at the time, I was a raging alcoholic in the best of ways. And
thank you, Hunter S. Thompson. And that's all.
And I did lots of drugs. And I was in this punk band, Amen. And we were touring the world with Slipknot. And even Slipknot, who really know how to party like Pantera knew how to party, they did. They were the fucking real. And they destroyed shit. But when they'd see me coming, when Joey Jordison would see me coming with that look in my eye, he'd be like, all right, everybody, watch out. Here comes the apocalypse, right? And so it stuck. So everybody started calling me, hey, there comes the apocalypse. And so I got a tattoo. Well, you know, fucking 2003, so whatever, 15, 20 years later, we start this blues thing. And Tony Rombola goes, how about the Apocalypse Blues? Because, you're the apocalypse, and, the intent is blues. So I'm the Apocalypse, the intent is blues. The Review was my band. Now the Revival's my band. And it's the same bass player, this guy, Brian Carpenter, Floridian guy, the best bass player in America right now. I'd back that. You hear his bass on this new record. It's insane.
Nice.
He's like,
where can we hear it, dude?
You could go. It's out, man. Go to apocalypsebluesrevival.com. Go to Spotify. Go to iTunes.
Yeah, we'll have links in the description here.
We'll absolutely link it.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. We'll blatantly whore that shit out.
Please, we have 3 videos out on YouTube. Do that first, because it's a semi-concept, semi-autobiographical record that I wrote. I wrote this record. I produced it. I mixed it, and it's like Sully says, "Oh my God!" It's like,
where did you record? Did you record it yourself?
Stepping inside my brain for a minute, right? And so we went to a studio right here in Southwest Florida called Dream Studios. This guy Duncan, he's an old Englishman, man. He's in his 70s. He played horn. He played fucking tenor sax for Little Richard's band.
Oh,
Picture,
no big deal.
That's amazing.
we recorded studios in this studio. I mean, we're using on the new Apocalypse record, the Revival. We use the Hammond B3 from fucking Muscle Shoals.
Oh, that's incredible.
That Greg Allman even he upgraded it with his own little
Greg who?
Yeah. But
I know his brother though.
That's some big shit, right? And then we got Kenny James to play the Hammond B3 on this new record. And he comes from Rare Earth. Like, that dude was nominated for a Grammy the year I was born, Kenny James. He played the B3 on our new record. And
his name alone just sounds like, dude, Kenny James is fucking coming down right. Like, dude, shut the fuck up. Kenny James is in the room.
How about this one? So I fly in Marco Polo. Not Marco Polo, but his real name, Marco Polo. It was the day before the only day that he could play the sax on this record for me was the day before he was to enter Capitol Studios in LA, the big round famous studio with Sinatra. But he was going in room B instead of the big room A. But still, he plays for Louis Prima Jr.'s band. He's a sax player for that band, who I know the drummer, A.D. Adams, from. And Louis Prima's father, Louis Prima Sr., wrote, I ain't got nobody. You know that one? And that's his
I'm Benny Goodman, bro. I know that shit.
So
I absolutely love all that crap, dude. And in my crap, I mean some stuff like Gene Krupa era stuff.
Yeah, it's big band swing shit. Anyway, so I got that cat to play on the record, and that's the only guest musicians. And then it's Tony, myself, Brian, and Shane. Apocalypse Blues Revival. But anyway, the semi-autobiographical thing is I came up with this like story, and the song started taking shape in the tour bus in Europe and Godsmack tour. And you know, my mom was dying of COPD, and she was living alone. I had to move her to up north in West Virginia. It was a big thing that was going on. I really had the blues. My sister had cancer. She ended up passing 3 months later and shit. So
I'm sorry, dude.
So sorry.
And then the other part of it was written a lot. So anyway, it's a very, very personal record for me. And so I really want people to
Yeah, we
hear
definitely have to check it out for sure.
Yeah.
We'll definitely share it.
And honestly, I'm sorry that we're so egocentric that we didn't even give you an open to talk about it more. And I hope that you'll come back and talk to us about it so we don't have to have you like shove your life story about your mom and like your sister and like fuck cancer and all that shit. And like, oh yeah, cool. 3 seconds. Bye.
Well, listen, man, if that's an invitation, I accept. I would love to come back on the show.
yeah.
And talk
No,
to
you're
another-
so awesome. It was
We
so
love you,
nice
dude.
to talk
Like
to you.
I want to. You have so much shit that we just want to talk. We haven't even scratched the surface with you, dude. And you need to come back on when we have David on because I think it'd be great if you guys as drummers kind of like had at it and we just sat back because I consider you one of the greatest drummers.
That would be
of
the
my
trippiest episode
Oh my
we would
gosh,
ever
yeah.
possibly
Dude, he's
have.
such a fucking trip. Dude, he had lunch. He told us about lunch with Timothy Leary. So go on to 2020-d.com and watch David Abruzzes's episodes because he talks about, tripping out there and wherever he is. There's a volcano. There's Timothy Leary. There's tripping in the streets of Amsterdam and carrying beds around. It's some crazy shit, dude.
Yeah, some stories, yeah.
We'll definitely get that going again. Shannon, thank you so much. Godsmack.com, obviously, if you guys want to go hear some stadium rock. And we have
Literally the biggest fucking rock band. I don't want to say since Aerosmith, but I don't think anyone in will your band be upset if I say since Aerosmith? Because like we all know the kings of Boston are Aerosmith, but they're getting older. And the torch needs to be passed, and maybe it's to Sully Erna and all of you guys, because I gotta say, man, as a Boston guy that's seen a lot of Boston bands rise up, I listened to Rocco on the radio before you were in that band and heard him play you guys a million times. I was crowd surfing in the video that made you guys. I'm in the video. There's like
it's
me.
it's
I'm
because
like,
of him that Godsmack made
No,
it.
I just saw it happen. I saw it all happen. I remember when Sully Erna used to come into Dan Hartwell from Local Bazooka's office. Hey, you got some more tickets? He's like the most Boston fucking dude in the fucking world guy. And like he literally, when I saw him on stage with Metallica, I'm like, this guy fucking made it. Like he's because Metallica is the biggest. There's Iron Maiden and there's Metallica. Like what else do you want? And then there's Godsmack. Yeah. So for that, dude, I salute you, sir.
Yes.
I salute you, Shannon Larkin.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate
Take it easy,
that.
brother.
Thank
Enjoy
you
the
so
game,
much.
bro.
Let's do it again, for real.
Yeah,
Got it.
for sure.
ApocalypseBluesRevival.com, Godsmack.com. Thanks, Shannon. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Benny, you have the fluffiest cat ever.
Yes.
Do you have Lucille?
Yeah, Lucille.
Lucille is the fluffiest cat
Be careful
ever.
though. Don't touch her bum. She might go squirrely.
Usually it's not the first thing I do when I see an animal.
I'm just saying it's
Like, cool.
tempting.
What's the name of this cat? Can I stick my finger in its butt? Awesome. That's me. I need at least 20 more beers.